Daring Mavuika will turn her enemies into roadkill, and today I'm gonna tell you how to build her best. My name is Juice, and let's get into it. So what artifacts does this prime warrior of Notlan desire? None other than 4-piece obsidian codex. Her damage output is truly nothing to scoff at, and she thrives when utilizing Night Soul based mechanics, so naturally, this will be her best bet in terms of DPS. No need to choose anything else. Farm this for her as soon as you can. 4-piece Mayonnaise Hunters works fine too, but it's a fairly restrictive set since you need to use Farina in your team to make use of it. That's because Mavuika has no inbuilt HP loss mechanics of her own. If you're fine with gluing her to Lady Farina, then this set's not that much worse than Codex. But I'd farm up a Codex set for this brave woman as soon as possible, since you get Night Soul damage percent from its 2-piece along with 4% more crit rate, not to mention that it's much less restrictive. If you want to use Mavuika in a more supportive role, then you can always opt for 4-piece Intercity as well. If you're a long-time viewer of mine, then you're fully aware of how much I've glazed this set. 40% damage bonus on top of Mavuika's splendid synergy in Notlan teams is nothing to scoff at. Keep in mind that you should use Mavuika on a damaging set instead if you're using Shielonen or Sitlolly in the same team, because you can't have 2 Cinder Holders in the same comp. 2-piece mix and match sets include 2-piece Night Soul percent, normal and charge attack percent, EM, and pyro percent. As for Mavuika's main stats, simple. Go for attack percent, pyro percent, crit percent. She has no ER requirements because she is literally unable to have them, so you should always go for an attack percent sans. She deals some pyro damage, so use a respective goblet on her, and crit is the way to go in terms of her circlet. It's as simple as it gets, a traditional ADC build. However, an EM sans will be better than an attack one if you're playing her in Melt or Vape teams with her as the main carry. It'll cause a pretty significant boost in her damage output. This is extremely relevant, because Melt and Vape are her best team options when playing her as a main DPS. As for substats priority, simple, go for this. EM is better than attack percent within Melt or Vape carry teams, but attack percent becomes better if you're using her as an off-fielder or as a carry in any non-Melt or non-Vape teams. Remember that ER percent is totally useless on Mavuika because she quite literally cannot use ER, so there's no ER requirements to speak of here. Use Codex for an on-field Wika and Cinder City for an off-field Wika. She has effective sets for both occasions. Mavuika is the warrior that was able to split the Night Kingdom in two, and in order to exhibit her exalted strength to all of Notlan, she'll need the right weapon to do the job. What'll her best in slot weapon pick be? None other than 1,000 Blazing Suns. This choice has a crud ton of base attack, a neat bit of crit rate, but not too much due to Obsidian Codex overcapping, and a passive that's chock full of stat sticks. Obviously her best in slot, considering that it was tailor-made for her. Fantastic weapon pick. Redhorn Stone Thresher is gonna be another amazing choice for her, considering how large the stat stick is. The passive won't do much for Mavuika, you're mostly using it for its stats. The huge crit damage is splendid for her, especially because of how much crit rate she gets from Codex. Certainly a worthwhile choice. Serpent Spine is back at it being one of the best claymores in the game. Once again, be careful of overcapping on crit rate. The passive is incredible and it's definitely Mavuika's best 4-star option. Fantastic pick if you have it. Beacon of the Reedsea and Verdict will both work due to being good stat sticks, pretty much the same reason as Stone Thresher, but Stone Thresher's crit damage is more valuable than both Verdict and Beacon. Wolf's Gravestone and Unforged are both really good for one simple reason, attack percent, and a lot of it. Tidal Shadow is a fantastic craftable free-to-play option. If you have nothing else for your Mavuika, then this will do just fine thanks to the attack percent. Mailed Flower is a fine free-to-play pick too if you want the EM for on-field Vape and Melt teams. Perfectly fine option, not much else to add here. On an attack percent sans, Mailed Flower will actually beat Tidal Shadow. There's plenty of weapon options available to this powerful goddess of war. No matter what stage your account is at, you should be able to gear her up effectively. She'll be a true powerhouse on any of these choices. Who will be standing with Mavuika in the war against the Abyss? Well, we should start by discussing all of the Notlan teams that she'll be buffing. First off, Mualani comps. You're able to use her as a replacement for Xiangling as a high-damaging power applicator in her Vape teams. These two are going to be an excellent pairing, so if you're a big fan of the Shark Surfer, then consider slotting the Pyro Archon into your teams. Example teams include Mualani, Mavuika, Emily, Candice, the Surfer, the Biker, Shielonen, and a Flex slot. Shark Surfer, Son of Caledon, Nihida, Zhongli. Then Kenichi and Hao teams. Mavuika will gain Fighting Spirit super quickly because of how quickly the pair do normal attacks, and she'll be a fantastic upgrade over Xiangling in these comps, both in terms of team damage and usability. No more dastardly ER requirements, you'll love to see it. The Exalted Pyro Archon is certainly an upgrade to be reckoned with. Great synergy. Example teams include Kenichi and Hao, Bennett, Mavuika, Emily. Let's not forget about Chaska either. It's a bit awkward because at C0 you have to repeat an element in her teams because you need Bennett to both heal for fanfare and buff Chaska's attack. So you either remove Bennett for Charlotte or another elemental healer and lose all of the attack buffs, or swap out Farina and miss out on using one of Chaska's best supports. It'll be fine to ignore part of the Gunwoman's A1 because Mavuika just does that much for the team. It's like ignoring Linny's Pyro passive in favor of playing Vape, or a stack of Draconic Glories to play Lady Farina with Nouvellette, but to a lesser extent. Note that C1 on Chaska is appreciated in order to play her at her max potential. Example teams include Chaska, Bennett, Farina, Mavuika. Ideally, Chaska has C1 here. Chaska, Auroron, Shenhe, Mavuika. Chaska, Bennett, Mavuika, Sitlali. She has a certain special synergy with Shilonen. Mavuika is a fantastic Vape carry, so if you want to play her as such, you're certainly gonna reap some rewards. However, she needs Night Soul consumption to happen in order to generate Fighting Spirit. That's where Shilonen kicks in. She consumes 90 Night Soul for kicks, which support the Exalted Pyro Archon perfectly. If you want to play DPS Wika, then Shilonen is gonna become your very best friend. Kachina would be the free-to-play friendly replacement. Speaking of which, Mavuika's an insane Vape carry, the strongest Pyro Vape unit in the game, might I add, so if you want to play a good Pyro DPS team, to say that Mavuika will satisfy your needs would be a bit of an understatement. Example teams include the Motorcyclist, Lady Farina, Bennett, and the DJ Cat. The recently released Sitlali aged this abyss-conquering warrior in her forward melt team splendidly. If you want to play her as a forward melt carry, then the plushy-enjoying Shielder will be a fantastic teammate for her, if not acting as one of her strongest. She reduces Pyro Res, which increases the Pyro Archon's damage wonderfully. Fantastic synergy. You can either play this with Shilonen in the team, or with Ganyu to play Mavuika double Cryo. Example teams include the Flaming Rider, Bennett, Shilonen, and Sitlali. Strength Incarnate, Bennett, Ganyu, and Granny Itzli. Recently, Mavuika, Bennett, and Sitlali is a fun Rio-driven team that works pretty well too. Give it a go if you manage to catch the guy before he left Banners Forever. You can even play the Pyro Archon as a support for DPS Ganyu, which is funny because in my most recent video on the Coco Goat, I mentioned how she randomly gains a new teammate once every few patches. Funny how that works. Anyways, DPS Melt Ganyu is getting a fantastic Notlan flavored buff with this Blazing Woman's release. So to all my fellow Frosty Goat enjoyers, we're eating well. The team consists of Ganyu, Bennett, the Motorcyclist, and Shilonen. Give it a spin. Chloriander Overload can actually utilize Mavuika without any need of Not-One characters, because you want to know what one of the conditions are for charging up Fighting Spirit? Dealing normal attacks. It's an upgrade over Xiangling, especially because Mavuika does far more damage than her, so Clorox Bleach mains are winning this patch. Example teams include Clorox Bleach, Fischl, Chevreuse, and Mavuika. Chloriander, Kujosara, Chevreuse, and the Pyro Archon. She can be her own Overload DPS too. You can use 4-piece Intercity Autoron as a support here, because remember, that guy doesn't only work with Taser, his abilities work alongside Night Soul Bursts too, which the Pyro Archon can easily trigger. Her other main carry teams will be stronger, but this one will work nicely with Auroron generating her Fighting Spirit. Mono Pyro teams can also enjoy Mavuika's presence. Replacing Xiangling for this powerhouse will truly be one of the strongest ways to play Mono Pyro. For example, a team of Linear Arlecchino, Mavuika, Bennett, and Shilonen will absolutely rock the Spiral Abyss. This will benefit the Magician more than his dad, considering that he has mechanics which benefit him when the dudes put into Mono Pyro teams. Example teams include Linny, Mavuika, Bennett, Shilonen, Arlecchino, the Son of Caledon, Bennett, and the DJ Cat. You can consider using her with Nouvellette too, or any Hydra DPS for that matter. She can replace Kazuha in a Celestia killer comp, but at C0, she won't really be an upgrade most of the time. You'd rather just play the Kazu lad. Even so, it's a neat team option, and the DJ Cat's already there to supplement Fighting Spirit. With Constellations, Mavuika will be Kazuha here, but at that stage, why not just play her in her own Vape carry teams? You can also consider running Kazuha over Lady Farina to absorb a Pyro Aura, which will help make vaping more consistent. Example teams include Settle Down, Lady Farina, Shilonen, and Mavuika. You can consider replacing the DJ for Kachina if you don't have her. And yes, the Motorcyclist does in fact replace Xiangling in International, but only if you replace Kazuha for that Geo Cat lady. She can partake in dual carry teams with Navia too. These teams will actually be really strong for the Spina leader, since Shilonen is naturally a part of them already, so her partner will easily generate Fighting Spirit. She can on-field during Navia's downtime, adding a crud ton of damage to the team while allowing you to free up your dear Lady Farina. A splendid synergy indeed. Example teams include Navia, Shilonen, Mavuika, and Bennett. Dang, all these years waiting for the Goddess of Flames, yet the unlucky kid finally had a stroke of luck, because he still finds himself in all of these different teams. She has a plethora of different comps. There is no way that you're unable to form any sort of effective team comp for her if you've been playing and pulling for a minimum of 3 months. Yet how does this Exalted Warrior work? Well, her normals will deal up to 4 epic-looking basic strikes. Nothing much to add here. Her skill has both a press and a hold. When you press it, she enters the Night Soul's Blessing state and summons a Raiden-like Pyro Ring that will deal Pyro attacks along with your on-field character. The sub-DPS done through this method is really solid, and the Pyro application will generally be enough for most teams. In situations where you need more Pyro application, you're probably using Xiangling Man. Her hold will have her summon her motorcycle, and she enters the Night Soul's Blessing state. All of her normal and charge attacks will be converted into Pyro damage that get dealt when she is atop her motorcycle. This is how you can play her as a main carry, which, let me tell you now, it's worth it. Her damage is high. The motorcycle can be used for fantastic traversal as well. She literally power creeps every other Knotline unit before her in this regard. Excellent unit for exploration. Not to mention that you can do this and give your Mavuika motion sickness. Vroom, vroom, vroom. Her burst is interesting because you can't trigger it naturally. You have to either have teammates consume Night Soul or have teammates deal normal attacks in order to generate fighting spirit for her. When she has at least 50%, you can cast her burst. She'll do a stupidly powerful pyro nuke and then will no longer consume Night Soul as she does her motorcycle normals and skills. The initial nuke is worth casting in Mavuika sub-DPS teams due to the huge damage output, plus triggering her supportive A4, which we'll touch on in a moment. And the ability is absolutely integral to your main DPS playstyle. It also increases the damage that her normal and charge attacks do when she's in her motorcycle state, mind you, truly living up to the name of Elemental Burst. As for her Ascension passives, simple. Mavuika's A1 gives her a massive attack boost whenever a Night Soul burst gets triggered by a teammate. You should be playing her with Knotline teammates anyway, but even if not, she herself can trigger Night Soul bursts. Great A1. This applies to her off-field playstyle as well, so best of both worlds. Her A4 will cause her to buff the damage that the on-field character deals by up to 40% based on how much fighting spirit she consumes when she uses her burst. This buff will slowly deteriorate over time until you eventually use up the entire thing. This is the main supportive quality that Mavuika hosts within her kit. As for her talent priority, simple. For DPS Wika, go for this. She has a stupid amount of scaling in that burst of hers, don't underestimate it. There's no DPS-based scalings in a regular normal, so you can ignore them. For Bennett or Vape sub-DPS teams, same thing. But if you're playing any other sub-DPS team, go for this. All of her sub-DPS is based on her elemental skills tap. Once again, ignore her normal attacks. Her buffing is based on her A4, not her talents, so no need to prioritize it as much. However, still level it, since the nuke is nice. Wars are expensive, so let's talk Constellation. Mostly some excellent stat sticks which help her deal more damage. The Night Soul extension aids her sub-DPS playstyle too because you gain more uptime. Her support playstyle gains the ability to provide Death Shred, which is huge. Her DPS-based playstyle is nothing to scoff at this stage either. This is one of the strongest C2s in the entire game, certainly keeping in trend of Archon Constellation lineups becoming better and better as they release in order. This upgrades her burst by +3, a pretty good upgrade, huge for her DPS playstyle. The damage buff she gives out via her A4 will not decay, and she can now offer up to a max of 50% increased damage dealt. Fantastic for her supportive role. +3 to your skill is greatly welcomed for both playstyles, a splendid performance increase. Obviously, this is good for both of her playstyles. No way. So instead, let's discuss in terms of the whale meta. This is the best C6 in the game. Nothing comes close. If you're looking to get your foot through the door in terms of speedrunning or joining in on the whale meta, then to say that Mavuika is a good place to start would be an understatement. Nobody needs this much damage. This much damage is just unfathomable. C0 is fine enough and will clear all content. Don't fall for the carrot that Hoyo is dangling over your heads with this. I'd go for her Constellations up to C2 first, then her signature, then as many cons as you'd want. Her sig is indeed crazy for the record, however, but those cons, absolutely some of the craziest that Hoyo has ever put out. Mavuika's kit is an interesting case. I've heard all sorts of mixed opinions in regards to how she was designed. My personal wish is that she had more supportive capabilities, mostly so that she can make my Kenichi do a Kenichillion damage, but she's still an upgrade for him, which is all I care about at the end of the day. Here's hoping that we can get a break from power DPSs after this. We have so freaking many at this point, dude. Definitely let me know about what you think of this Blazing Queen down below in the comments. Does she meet your expectations 100%, or is she lame to you? I'd love to hear your thoughts. As always, I have a ZZZ second channel. Head on over and check it out if you're interested in some fun, silly ZZZ content. Hopefully this video was able to get your Mavuika circling her enemies into oblivion. This has been Juice, signing out. And they really slapped the Sonic Calydon into Genshin Impact, huh? Well, I'm all here for it.